Hello, everybody. What do we got on the agenda for today? You may ask. It's going to be supervised by Colossus over here. We're getting so close to the end of this project. After a mere, I don't know, what has it been, 87 years? Doing some final painting on a variety of the bits, which are over here. Let's put them over here so I don't have to keep walking in front of the camera. So I was digging up some reference just now to, always good to have a target to aim for if you're trying to paint for realism. And these are the two references I'm pulling from. So one is a very famous site, Angkor Wat. And that has a lot of great, like, green algae, I think, is what's going on there. Maybe some of that is lichen, but I think it's mostly algae. And then the weathering up top that gets very sort of black and white. I like that look, and I want to be able to emulate that and have more of the like green licheny areas near the bottom where, you know, more water has collected. The other reference I'm looking at is from this site, and to be honest, I'm not sure where this is. I need to dig into it. So usually when I save references, I will save the I will call the file the name of the place they are so I can look it up later. But anyway, it's got really great jaggy cliff, you know, rocky bits, and then like the stripes, the colored stripes that come down. Like you can especially see it in that reference where it's like, yeah. And so it's because I've got both natural rock and architecture, I need to be able to do both. So I was looking for a reference that has both of those elements in it. Now these pieces I did actually on this stream, I want to say, I need to say over 2 years ago. Wow, I've been streaming on Reaper for years now, you guys. That's weird to think about. Yeah, because I was doing this at my old house before I had to move. Anyway, so I'm trying to, you know, I painted this a certain way, and then I've been doing, you know, I've been learning in the couple years since then, and I have, you know, slightly different techniques on these other bits that have a slightly different look. So I'm needing to unify these all together. Zachariah, how you doing? Welcome. I hope your day is going dandy. All right. Oh, another thing I was wanting to do was see, I've got this, you know, this Citadel shade that I was using to add, you know, a little bit of that green sludgy flavor. I don't have a ton of it though, but what I do have plenty of, in theory, if I can find it again, is just green ink, and I think I can come close to reproducing what the shade does with my ink, you know, as soon as I find it. you go, green ink. Oh my God, it was literally right next to naturally, you know how these things go. I should turn on the Colossus so you can watch more carefully here. I want to make sure he keeps an eye on this because this is his new home. He's going to be living in these ruins. I want to make sure that he is happy with them. And finally, here's my mixie cups. I just have them. There they are. I'm so just super good at misplacing things. So first off, if I just paint straight with this, these are FW acrylic inks. I don't think this is going to give me the look that I want, so I'm going to test it on the back and just see what that's like. Yeah, it's a little too sort of cartoon green, not really what I'm going for. I mean, in some areas it can get that bright, and that's fine, but I would like to be able to manually and deliberately punch those in as I desire. I don't want to be forced to that. So a little bit of, actually I'll just use my dark paint water. Let's see what that gives me. So that's naturally going to make it sort of dissipate, stain and drip a little bit better. It's still probably brighter than I would like. So I'm going to toss in a little bit of brown, again, FW acrylic ink. And if this doesn't quite do the trick, then I may end up using some matte medium. Okay. Yeah, this is a little earthier, a little more natural. Because it's always a messy process, I'm going to glove it up. So if I want to do sort of drip staining, one of the things that I've said many times in this process is that I tried not to have many of the streaks be just normal drip size, because that gives away the scale real fast. One way to minimize that is to you know, put enough water that it starts dripping down, and then kind of corral it or add additional little streaks with a thinner brush. That can break up that straight up drip line. Is that showing on camera? It looks, I can see it on my camera, but I'm not sure if it's showing up on the stream very well. Yeah, Okay, I can see it. I can see it. Good. So in addition to those greens, when I look at my reference, I'm also seeing white streaks, blackish streaks, etc. Oh yeah, and another color I really wanted to reintroduce. I actually base coated it with this sort of tan, peachy colored rock that you see in here. So I want to bring some more of that out after I ended up doing a wash and then a dry brush and then another wash. As expected, while I still have some subtle tonal variations, they are very subtle now. And so I want to bring back some of that. I think this is a watered down version of this color. I just happened to find a on sale pre-mixed can of this paint, you know, for half off or whatever at the hardware store because, you know, someone bought it and then didn't want it and returned it or whatever. And so they always have like a sale rack there. And I was like, wow, that's almost exactly the color that I'm looking for. So cheap house paint for the win. Should probably get a like clean water container as well, so I'm not forced to dim it down with dark. One of the things that makes this so this pattern interesting is how the darks and the lights are so stark next to each other. Now this stone on this side is already pretty dark to begin with, so I don't really need to add anything, but if I wanted to. So this is another wash that I made. This is approximately 50 water, 50 matte medium, and probably 10 to 15%. Okay, so I know that equals more than 100. Hopefully you're following me here. About 10 to 15% ink, I think. So it's a pretty aggressively dark wash. But I can start with that wash and then just bring in my paint water wherever I want to give it more subtlety as needed. And always fun to just sort of mix the different elemental colors together, because that tends to happen. Wow, just managed to flick paint into my face and eye. That's fun. Yeah, so I think that's working all right. See what happens when we do a larger section of lighter paint. The other element that I like to bring in that really like pops it is a little like bright white from time to time. Cool, okay. That's enough practice. Feel confident enough to start applying some of these processes on the front. One of the things that's easy to accidentally overdo is to start doing a procedure and then you end up doing a pattern over the whole thing. Look at my other reference. We were just looking at it. Wow, that's weird. I've only been so many places since it was in front of the camera. Where could my other page have gone? Did I put it on? Oh, I fooled myself by putting it on the bottom of my stack. Okay, right. So when you look at some of the places where, just look at the green, right? Like, so you can definitely see a pattern of like, okay, it's on the sides of rocks, right? And so you can get into this idea in your head that, okay, I will put this on every side of every rock. But if you look closer, you're like, oh wait, this one has almost an entire half that just doesn't have green on it there. Why is that? I don't know, because of the light, because of where the evaporation or water tends to run. This one has just white patches and no green. Why is that? I don't know. But these are the kinds of things that I'm trying to emulate, is like, in general, I feel like 80% of the time, this green kind of creeps up from the bottom and kind of fades off, except for the places where it's like dripping down from up high. So, but then in these alcoves, you'll notice there's no green in any of these alcoves. Again, why? I don't know, but it's something worth trying to emulate. So I started putting green in this alcove, for instance, this nice blurry alcove. There we go. Because I was just following this procedure. Okay, I'm just going to dab along the bottom everywhere. And I'm just going to, not put it in that one now. Placing life at the ruins a little bit, yeah. And hi, interviews. Also, hi, boy, D. I'm calling you D. Sorry, I can barely read the chat from over here. Or I can read the chat fine. It's hard to make out the names because there are these garish colors on a white background. So I'll do my best. So I kind of feel like this peachy light color is probably better for the natural rock than for these ashlar carved tile rock. Like, it's definitely good to have stains running down, but I don't know, it doesn't feel right for some reason. Like, when I look at my reference, I see a lot of that, but none of this reference. This is all like 100% carved out of stone. There's no tile, or ashlar blocks on it. So that makes sense to have the same colors traveling through it, but not so much when it looks like someone actually was carrying separate rocks and putting them on, right? I think I'll stick to mostly the black and white palette here. Should though experiment with some of my brown too. Had this sitting in a thing that was full of paint. So these brown and red tones, I think, make more sense on these because that's the sort of thing where, iron content of any of these particular rocks or bricks can be seeping out and dripping down to the rocks around them. I also want to bring some more color to these top bits. Because I went and I picked out a palette of color varieties that I could work into the rest of the stone, and you can kind of see in that, right? Where if you look closely, you can see that there is like slightly yellowish, slightly bluish, slightly reddish. Again, it's very subtle right now, but it's in there. And so I want to make sure that same color variation is reflected on these guys, because I pretty much just painted them straight up black and white. But then for the little ruinedy bits that are going to be between where the walls have been knocked down, they have some of that color variation in them, so I need to make sure that's reflected on these two. So I'm just gonna barely tint them, give them a hint of that. One thing I don't like is when the paint collects in the cracks between the rocks and then brightens them up with that particular color. like, this is a thing that sometimes happens. But again, I haven't quite cracked the code for how or why, and so a lot of the times it just looks wrong, and I don't know why. Another one of my tools I have here is a little spray bottle with isopropyl alcohol. This is 99%. And if I want to like make something really flow down or just kind of break it up and get some nice splotchiness, spraying that on in places is pretty great for that. That guy. Next. Now, because these have been around for a couple years, just being thrown hither and thither, I've got some damage on them that I can just cover up by just throwing strong black over them. I'm kind of torn about doing anything on the back of them. It's going to make it so if I take a shot of the Colossus from behind, it at least won't look completely unfinished, right? Yeah, I mean, it'll only take moments. I might as well at least darken it up so it won't call attention to itself. That's about as much work as I need to put into the back. Again, trying not to be too consistent with how I'm applying this. Imagine if you've got some growth somewhere up like here, then you get a nice stark green streak coming down like this. It's another thing I really don't like, when the water collects at the bottom of a ridge and then like pulls the paint out into a horizontal line. That's another dead giveaway of scale. Pick one of these to colorize. I think this guy is a good one. I'll just lighten it up. Well, right now I'm darkening it up, but I'm about to lighten it up. Some of my peachy tan, sandy color. Very subtle, but it gives it, you know, makes it feel like it is a different piece of rock from somewhere else in the quarry. Again, just bringing in a little more color. I got lost in all the washes and stuff. I need another white streak somewhere, maybe here. Would be a good place for a white streak to live. I'm gonna start by dousing in water. Trying to dab away all the little places where the paint beads up, because again, that is a marker of scale. Your eye subconsciously picks up on those little droplets and interprets the scale as being, you know, off. It's not what you're intending to, unless you're intending to make it look like a miniature, in which case, great. Leave it. Okay. That's pretty good for this guy. One more. Now, for whatever reason, the color variations on this one are not as lost as the others. I don't know why that would be, but it is what it is. hello. Oh boy, that sounds French. I don't think I can do that. Oh, hello, oh. Welcome. How you doing? Ube? Is that close? It's one thing I just rediscovered on accident, and I should make sure I capitalize on this, is doing a watery, very watery wash, like most water, and then going in, you know, soaking it thoroughly, and then going in with just a line. You get this really nice diffusion of the stain coming down, which reminds me very much of some of my reference, like especially, I mean, you can see it pretty good there, like, because it's got that mostly tan sandstone thing, but then the dark just kind of like seeps into it. It's not like hard lines, you know what I mean, like it is over here. Anyway, I like it. I want to make sure I can remember that. I'm living very dangerously here. I'm working over carpet. I have a few little safety nets here and there, but you know what? I can probably easily put another safety net. Like so. Now if one of these dumps, it won't 100% dump all over the carpet. Try this thing. Just get it really wet. And then go in with a dark wash. Although I guess on a flat surface is going to diffuse it very differently than one that's broken up with tiles. I just now realized this is not going to give me that effect I was hoping for. But that's okay, it gave me an effect. For this little pile, again, I'm wanting to look at particular rubble pile and be like, how is that, how am I translating that to this? One of the things that's making me remember is that I still need to do like lichen spatter on here as well. I do kind of feel like the algae or whatever this is needs light, like it photosynthesizes, so it's not going to be in shadows, which is maybe why it's not showing up in the alcoves of my reference. And for whatever reason, and maybe it needs just like a perfect amount of light because it's not on the top surfaces of most of the blocks in my reference either. So what my guess is, it needs just enough sunlight to give it energy, but not so much that it evaporates the moisture that it needs to survive. That's my theory. Oh my God, I got your French name correct? It's probably the first time in history. For me in particular, not for people to get your name right, just for me. Okay, so got that, and then let's go ahead and figure out our lichen. Just gonna start out that. Find that sweet spot between where it's a little too dotty and where it's the right amount, and it needs to like have fairly soft edges. A conclusion that I came to fairly recently is that I was getting too granular with my lichen, because from a distance when you see lichen on something, you're not seeing the individual dots. Well, yeah, you're seeing bigger individual dots. So if you look at it on here, right? And you could definitely make out like a bunch of little things. But I think what I was doing was like one patch here. I don't know. Whatever I was doing, it was starting to look like camouflage. And so my theory was that I was being too dotty and spotty with it, or maybe that I just had it. The overall placement, it's hard to say. So again, let's look at this reference. Look at how there's like all these spots in this general area, and then almost none in this whole area. So there is some rhyme or reason to how it grows, how and where it grows. I do know that with lichen it does require sunlight. I'm guessing that the areas that get like a lot of water pouring over it continually, that's where the lichen has trouble staying attached. Again, my theory, but how does that inform where I actually put them on my art? That's harder to operationalize for me. I think I just need to trial and error my way to get to the point where I, feel like I figured it out, but I'm not there yet. Like, it does diffuse nicely when there's some moisture on the surface already. So you can see a difference between the spatter right there, and if I do, let's put some water down first, and then spatter there. So yeah, very different overall effect. And I feel like very stark white dots, like this one right here. Like this one right here. That is kind of a giveaway that it's not realistic. So I think it needs some amount of moisture down before I spatter it on. That's, again, my working theory. I think also having it 100% pure white is also not ideal. It needs to have some of the color underneath it coming through. So here's a spot where, let me try this. Let me try doing a very wet pass. Okay. And then coming in with dark. So this is an area where I'm saying that a lot of water is draining down on this, right? So I'm not going to put lichen there because it's got that dark patch to it. I think there's probably a sweet spot in how much moisture is on the surface before I spatter my lichen on. Seems like too much and it diffuses away like this into just like a general light patch. So I tried to put on a little bit less there. I am liking how that's looking. And then how close I shoot my alcohol at it also makes a difference between how much the individual specks sort of separate out and diffuse. So. But yeah, that looks really good. I really like that particular stain. It's got a mix of colors in it. It's got interesting shapes. It's not like, except for right here, there's a little drip that's giving away scale. So I'm gonna just pull that down manually. There we go. Yeah, that's the kind of drip staining I strive for, but it's really hard to get on this tiled surface. And maybe one of my problems is that I'm fighting to get it to drip over that surface, and it's not happening naturally, and Maybe that's because it shouldn't. What I need to do is look for reference of a tiled surface that also has drippy stains. Most of my reference is carved out rock, although I mean this is composed of different, you know, blocks, and then the shapes are carved into it, but the seams are much tighter. Here they're a lot like bigger, you know, clear tiles. So I'm guessing that makes some kind of difference. Okay, so coming back to this guy, now that I've done some lichen testing, let's see if I can apply some best practices to it. So I'm going to start with some amount of wetness. And when the brush is not very loaded, you know, it gives obviously not as much paint, which gives a more generally diffused. One thing also I'm noticing is that the sort of brightness of the lichen spots is heavily modulated. It seems almost like, you know, some grew and then the seasons changed, and so the water was coming down and like killed off most of them, and then the season changed back, and now there's a fresh batch growing over that previously mostly killed off. Again, these are all just stories I'm telling myself in my head to make sense of what I'm seeing, but yeah, so in that case, to get that effect, essentially what I need to do is like have an area that's pretty darn wet. Maybe I need just gray paint instead of the white. I could do that over and then come back with a whiter, brighter pass to give it that extra modulation. So I know I have some just gray paint. Where did I put my just gray paint? So what happens Looks like I need to get some clean water again. Hold on. Looks like I also hid my paper towels for myself. So let's do a test over here. Get it nice and wet. Do a gray spatter pass. So the water is beating up on here because it's got a clear coat. But I'm not hating what it's doing, just the way it's beating and congealing or what have you. I think I'll let that dry and see what it ends up looking like. Speaking of which, let's see if we just do alcohol prep on the surface. Then the spatter. Huh. This thicker acrylic paint is doing annoying streaks that I'm not a fan of. I can probably fix that just by watering it down a little bit. A bit. But yeah, I think what I want to do is wait for that to dry and then come back and hit it with white. You know, the lighter spatters of white and see what happens. I'm just trying to make it so that the spots are not all equally sized, because in my reference I see a lot of different sizes for these patches. I think in general, light gray is better than white for this. It's giving me a more natural finish. And another thing in my reference that I'm seeing is this, like, a whole section is like modeled with this very light effect, lichen effect. So I just want to try that on one of these. Maybe I'll just say this section is going to be the super lichen section. See how that ends up. Start by getting it pretty wet. I don't think, well, I guess in some places the lichen and the algae live close to each other, but for the most part, in the big streaks, I'm not seeing lichen build up. Well, I see lichen build up in the what I think are the water streaks, the like black streaks, but I don't see them on the green streaks. Again, assuming that it's because the algae likes more wet surfaces than the lichen does. I've got the surface a little too wet because a lot of the spots are just kind of dissolving into a general brightness of the surface as opposed to that feeling of distinct splotches. Just going by hand and start adding some bigger places. Oh my god. Stop getting blurry. Why are you doing that? And it may be, again, if I let this dry and then come in with white, or you know what, since we're here experimenting, what happens if I do pure white now without letting it dry? So when the spatters get away from my little area that I've designated with the wetness, they strike the surface and are just like, they're like little pinpricks of unrealistically brightness. So I think what that means is like, I can designate an area with wetness, but I also need to make sure that I've wetted all the other area around it so that the splash damage doesn't mean I have to go in and do like emergency changes. But yeah, I do think this is pretty effective. Getting the look I'm going for. Let's get a close up. Angle right so you can see all the speckles. Yeah. And it might be a little too bright and too diffused. I think it is. But again, when I come back after it's dry with a pure white, I think that problem will go away. I hope that problem will go away. Okay, so let's try this wetting everything technique. Don't want to get it too wet to the point where it starts pulling away all the cool paint streaks I did. it's promising. I'm still not 100% happy, but you know, that's what experimenting is for. Let's see how close we can get to 100% happy. Brush down. All right. We will continue our experiments next time. Now's a good time to go raid someone cool. Right, am I right about that? Yes. It's raiding someone cool time. So let's get that queued up. I want to thank everyone for joining me. My name is Josh Foreman. You can find more of this kind of content on my YouTube channel at Josh Foreman. I got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those things. Links in the doobly-doo. Except for TikTok. I don't even know if it's worth linking that at this point, since it might be illegal soon. We'll see.